evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Ray, and I'd like to welcome you all to my presentation of the modern classroom experiment. Now, let me formally introduce myself. Again, my name is Thomas Ray. I'm 33 years old, and I'm in my fourth year teaching at Martin County High School, and in my second year at the Martin County Area Technology Center. Some of my education background includes a bachelor's in human services and in business, and I also have a master's in business. The classes that I teach include principles of entrepreneurship, personal finance, digital literacy, and introduction to management. My problem of practice. Every teacher has their own, but as we all experience, there is always something within the classroom we can all improve upon. Whether it be classroom management or the way we help our students, there is always room for improvement. As a business instructor, the material that I teach can sometimes be a little cut and dry, straight and to the point, and be difficult to understand at times. Personally, my problem of practice would have to be student engagement. It is important to find ways that not only connect with the students, but also keeping them engaged and on track. In getting the Modern Classroom grant, my hope was to not only have other resources to help my students, but a way that would help them get a full understanding of the subject being taught while also enjoying it at the same time. If I can't teach them something and they actually try to get some sort of enjoyment out of it, then I feel like I'm not doing my job to its fullest. And here, as you can see, for those of you that are not familiar with it, this is the modern classroom model. All right, it consists of blended instruction where students can access content through either teacher-made videos for myself or creative videos through another program. Self-paced structures. This allows students to control their own pace of learning. Whether it be the assignments or their overall content of the subject, but this provides them with their own pace in learning. And then lastly, mastery-based grading. Student progress from one lesson to the next when they can demonstrate that they have already picked up the material on what they've already been taught. Here are the 5 actual steps in creating a modern classroom lesson. The first one being mastery checks. We get to choose a learning objective and set the criteria for what the students have to master. All right, so whether that be just a budget lesson in personal finance or a pricing lesson in entrepreneurship, we're letting them know up front, this is what you're going to have to learn and be able to master by the end of the lesson. Second, instructional videos. We're able to record instructional videos with guided notes and enhancements. This provides students with the ability to learn as they go when it comes to their lessons. For example, on the Foundations digital program that we use, it provides videos that for every lesson that we go through. And following that, it has activities and quizzes to help them understand what they have learned. And then the third step for this for creating a modern classroom lesson is to classify your lessons. Self-pacing plan. Classify your lessons. Build your pacing tracker. Describe your strategies for student collaboration and motivation. So this one allows the students to not only pace themselves whenever they're learning and when they're working. It provides them the opportunity to work with others and to even help others possibly get on what level they need to be. Whether or not they need help with a particular question or lesson, they can either ask for my help or they can actually ask for their colleagues' help. The fourth part is learning design plan. This optimizes their learning management system that they're going to be using within the class. Now, as we get through the presentation, I'll talk about 2 different ones, but the one that we use the most would be Google Classroom. Seeing that the pandemic has put a big hit on a lot of school districts and areas, Google Classroom seems to be the most efficient way in getting to our students either virtually and in person. And then lastly, The final submission in the modern classroom lesson, we are to take the 3 complete modern classroom lessons that we had completed prior throughout the program and turn them into 1 final submission. Now we're going to break down all 5 of these steps into and try to explain to you exactly what's going on in it. First being mastery-based grading. Mastery-based grading requires you to provide the following information within it. The learning objectives and standards, practice, mastery checks for them to see how well they have learned or picked up on the material, give them opportunities to revise any incorrections, and then any type of reassessment policies within the lesson. So what I picked up on the most in this mastery-based grading scenario is students respond more to a subject when they can see how well they're doing throughout. I mean, even myself, still being in college, no matter what work that I do, I always like to see how well that I'm doing. So I would say that the students themselves want to know the same thing. In providing them with the standards for the lesson and the ability to always see their progress, my students always seem to want to work harder in order to maintain or improve their grades while also putting in maximum effort for the assignments. So in my analysis, if a student sees how well they're progressing throughout the lesson, they'll either want to work harder, for one, to improve upon their grades, or 2, they'll want to improve upon their knowledge base of the subject, or they want to do both. All right, so blended instruction. This is probably one of my more favorite ones. Of course, it contains the learning objective and standards, a video creation process for those that would be on virtual, and any type of note-taking abilities. So what I took away from the blended instruction, what I took away from the blended instruction portion was that it doesn't always mean that you have to stand up in front of your students and lecture all the time. I know as a student, don't get me wrong, lecturing, that's how you get your material, how you get your information out, but you don't have to do it the same way all the time. Standing up in front of them, explaining things. This part of the modern classroom lesson provides you the ability to mix it up. So you can do that by either using videos, any type of game-based learning exercises, or even a movie that is appropriate for the subject. They can be just as effective, if not more at times, than actual lecturing. If you constantly do the same routine over and over, and then in my opinion, you will quickly burn out your students. You can stand there and you can tell them how to do something all day long, but until they actually put their hands on what they're trying to learn, then you're basically leading the horse to water and they're not drinking. All right. I know that's a different type of analogy, but that's just the way that I look at it. Now, self-paced structures. A lot of students, they feel pressure when timelines are hit. I mean, and don't get me wrong, timelines are important when it comes to completing assignments. Self-paced assignments, for example, help take the stress off of students that learn a little not as fast or slower than others. All right, everybody learns differently. Not everybody does the same. But self-paced structures include, of course, lesson clarification that involves their must-dos, their should-dos, and their aspire-to-dos. It shows them their progress on whatever assignments they're on. It provides them with any opportunity to work with any of their fellow students. Provides them strategies for not only motivation, but metacognitive reflections and any type of modifications and accommodations to any of the assignments for those particular students. Like I mentioned before, out of these 5 steps, I believe that this self-paced one is probably my number 1 because I learned the most about it. I found that if you're upfront with your students in regards to what they have to accomplish and how they need to accomplish it, then you're more likely to be successful in keeping them engaged on the tasks that they're on. by explaining to them what they must do, what they should do, and what they aspire to do, will help them keep track of what is completed and what they still need to work on. Giving the option to track their progress can help motivate them to either finish early with an assignment or to help them catch up. If they see that timeline is rapidly approaching, then they might want to push themselves a little harder in order to get the assignments done. And doing this, it can provide one-on-one assistance to those that may be slow, a little behind, or stuck on a particular lesson. This opens up myself to those students, and I'm not in front of them lecturing all the time. So it does definitely open up more time for me to help them. All right, learning design and organization. Now, the learning design and organization consists of the LMS, which is their learning management system. Again, that was my primary is Google Classroom, and my secondary is Ramsey Classroom, formerly known as Foundations Digital. This portion provides a classroom plan for student self-direction, a student-teacher interaction, student collaboration, and mastery checks. Now, before I go into how this affected me, I actually provided a lesson plan from the Foundations Digital Learning Management System as an example to show you how everything is specifically timed and laid out for each of the lessons that we do within this program. The most important aspect that I got out of this portion was making sure that my students knew how to operate their learning management systems. You can put them on a particular program any time of the day, but if you don't actually break it down and show them how to come up with a username and password, to log in, to explore the program, to show them where they will be getting the material or where they'll be turning in their assignments, then in my opinion, you're not fulfilling your job. All right. Again, there are two learning management systems that I use, Google Classroom, Ramsey Classroom. Seeing that everything is moving away from textbooks and more towards digital or electronic books and other learning sites, it's important for students to grasp this transition now while they're in high school, because once they get to college, it won't be as stressful as an environment for them to transition to. All right, and lastly, the fifth and final step in the modern classroom development lesson is preparing for launch. This portion of the lesson is a checklist for us, the teachers. All right, it helps us, or helps me specifically, see if there are any changes or revisions that I need to make, or if there's anything that I could improve upon before I follow through with the actual lesson with my students. Making sure that everything is on point for the students can make or break the way they receive their content. So even though this is the last step, it is the most crucial. We need to make sure that everything is in order, because students can tell, believe it or not, if you're winging a lesson. All right, if they come in there and you're completely unprepared and you're just trying to throw something at them just to occupy their time, they pick up on things like this. So we need to make sure that as educators, we need to have everything planned and ready to go whenever they come into the classroom. And lastly, to sum everything up, I would like to extend my appreciation and gratitude to KVEC for allowing me the opportunity to participate in this modern classroom grant. I've come away with so much more knowledge and understanding as to not only to reach my students and to help them, but to help them further their education.